On this episode of EFL Unfiltered, we speak to none other than Frank Lampard, former England international, Chelsea legend, and now, of course, manager of Coventry City, on his career, what drives him, what inspires him, and what's coming next. Frank, just cast your mind back to November, a bit of time out, Christmas on the horizon, what people might look at from the outside looking in as a nice, easy time in your life. The call comes in, the email comes in, the contact comes in, Coventry City are involved, asking after your availability. How do you get from that to where you sat now?
Well, it's a really interesting question because for the year or so of not working, my wife Christine just kept telling me, like, relax, enjoy being out of the job, you know, because one day you're going to get a call. and that situation absolutely happened, as you say. So you do stress in a good way, you know, it's an opportunity. You do think how life-changing it is at that moment.
There is a bit of a stereotype about players of a certain era and a certain level, world-class players that kind of go into management. And it's, if whether it's judged as success or not a success, or whether it's somewhere in between, there's that question that always gets thrown up, they don't need to do it. Now, I believe that people are looking at that purely from a financial point of view, but that need that comes from within that got you to where you were as a player, that's still there as a manager, isn't it? So when I'm saying it's nice to be at home and things are nice when they're nice, but that hunger, that fight, that competitive spirit, is that what draws you back in when a Coventry City come knocking?
Yeah, it is. And I maintained that feeling and spirit. When you leave a job, sometimes you have a little honeymoon period of, it's great, I'm not working, and spend time with my family. I think it's really natural. But quite quickly for me, that came back of wanting to work, a challenge, a hunger, a desire to prove yourself out there because of what people would view as your last job if you left the job. So I always had that. I find that balance quite easy though. I can be quite relaxed at home, but still be like waiting and driven and watching games and trying to improve and all those things. So I mean, that's people cast these assumptions about ex-players, and they're very casual. I agree with you. Money, you don't need to. For me, that doesn't come into the equation. That it's there, but the main thing is, as a 46-year-old man, I'm not ready to not work. I want to work. I'm competitive. I've done it all my life. I feel like I can. I feel like I'm quite good. I feel like I can get better, and I love that process. So yeah, I was ready to go, and then it was like, what's the right opportunity? Because I'm a little bit experienced in that now from my jobs and the choices I've made and how they've turned out.
So that ability to choose and that skill set to be able to choose the right one. What was it about Coventry then that kind of jumped up and excited you to come here?
Yeah, well, I suppose I should just say that it's hard to have the ability to absolutely choose the right one and not be too selective. You've got to be careful because, you know, sometimes most jobs you go into, there's a reason why you're taking them and there's challenges. So it's trying to gauge that from the outside. But, you know, the basic things, the simple things of speaking to the owner and the important people at the club to get that relationship right. Because it's one thing I have learned, that needs to be a good relationship to stand the test of time and also to be aligned in what your ideas are and what expectations are. And sometimes I think you can feel from the outside when you look at a club and you study a lot what should be a reasonable expectation. And if that aligns with the ownership, if it aligns with where you want to go, can you affect the club well? Will the squad that they've got help your style of will your work and style of play align with the squad that they have? Is there possibilities you can recruit down the line? I think they're valuable questions. But there is also a point where you want a job, and there were reasons I wanted this job where I really wanted it. So you look at the size of the club, where it is in the league. Do you think they can do better in the league? Yeah. I have to go and prove that by your work. But I felt that with Coventry, and I got really excited about the club quickly. And it reminded me of the feeling I had with Derby for various reasons of the club in the city, well supported, the history, the ambition, and for that it was, I'd say, an easy choice, but it was the choice for me.
You mentioned the fact that you're just 46. I mean, we see a lot of young managers now, so just 46 is not what he was probably 50, 20 years ago, is it?
Exactly.
But in that sense of where you've been so far, Derby, Chelsea and Everton, and taking threads and themes through each, are the fundamentals that you've kept all the way through so far? Are the things you've looked at and thought, well, that did work, I'll take it. That didn't work, I won't take it.
Yeah, there's lots of things like that. There's lots of things I did at Derby in the early days that I still do now, and I think they're good. There's some things along the way you go, no, that didn't work, or you know, you learn a little lesson from an approach. But I think the thing about philosophy is, it really interests me, and identity is that as a coach, you have an idea how you want to play and how you want to be, and then the context of the job you walked into completely can change like that. And I suppose I've got two positive examples, and one being Derby, that we went in and the squad was quite low block, counter attack. It was a little bit older, it just was in profile, and we could bring in players of youth and energy and legs that made us quite a higher pressing,
From higher up as well.
team. Yeah, exactly. So we got that. And then going to Chelsea, we had a transfer ban, but we also had the tools to be able to continue in that vein. So like if you look at probably my career up till then, you go, attacking, high pressing. I'm pretty proud of that in that sense. And then when I went to Everton, I probably went with similar ideas. I'm not stupid. I knew there was a different squad. I'm in a relegation battle. And I realised after 3 weeks that the things that I could do, Chelsea, Derby, couldn't do, and I had to find a way. So then you change your style, we stay in the league, which I think was an achievement. It certainly felt it, but your stats look different, your data looks different, your team looks different, because we had to find a way to win games with the players that you've got. I find that really interesting. So as much as some managers now, and we see it regularly, they'll stick to their guns through success, through failure. I've got some respect for it, and fair play. That's what you are. I have had different challenges put in front of me, I feel, and tried to respond and tweak and get better. And I find it a good challenge. So, am I a better manager? I think probably for the experience, yes. Certainly, you live and learn from failures as well as successes. Mainly failures, I guess. So I think I'm more well-rounded for that. And coming into Coventry, I've got probably a more open mind. There are basics I want to be.
Yeah.
But how does it look? You have to get in and work with the players.
When you said about working with players, it fascinates me what people's perception is of a Premier League player as opposed to a Championship player, League One, League Two. And my humble take on it always was, you talk about the money involved in football and further up the pyramid. Players at the very top get paid for reliability, don't they? Not necessarily because you can't get the ball off them in a phone box. It's because you tell them something once, it'll stick and they'll do it. Have you found that different at different levels? Have you found the need to kind of, from a purely, possibly humane point of view, of being able to describe how you want something to work and maybe open to the fact that you might have to go over it again and kind of reaffirm what you're after at different clubs?
Yeah, I think that there is something there. It's definitely too simplistic to say it as that. But I understand what you mean. There's a reason why players are in the Premier League. There's a reason why players in the Champions will aspire to be in the Premier League. You have to deliver consistently there. Those Premier League players have done, whether it's through pure talent or it's work ethic and put them together, and you get these specimens in the Premier League, the ultimate ones.
Yeah.
But then when you come down to the Championship, I don't think it's the big divide too much that you cannot try to expect players to understand what you take on. I think your job as a manager anyway, at the top level as well, is to get the most effective, most simple message across. Those simple things can be the best. And one thing I do find with players in the Championship, and it sounds a bit stereotypical in general, but when you try and deliver messages and meetings and repeat, which is a bit of their job, they really want to do it because there's a humility about them, there's a work ethic about them, they want to be better. Again, this is general.
Yeah.
But I found it at Derby, and I find it here in my early days at Coventry. So I never expect too much of the players. I don't. That's an easy casual one as well. Oh, you played at this level, so you probably get upset when they can't do it.
Yeah.
That's a nonsense. I never went into coaching thinking that.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy trying to make someone better through work, and help them and support. So yeah, it's just different challenges. But there's a lot to enjoy about working in the Championship and working with this club and working with different types of players to the Premier League. They're all just different experiences as a coach.
Well, they certainly sound like a happy bunch as well.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. I'm going to tell them up there.
Laughing away behind the back. It comes on to the second part of the question, which is you can't sit down and talk to Frank Lampard without realising where Frank Lampard was as a player. Quite simply a world-class footballer, which, Jose Mourinho classed at one point as the best midfielder on the planet, which is high praise indeed for someone who's won so many things. And we'll come on to Jose hopefully shortly, because I'm sure he's a man that you have the deepest respect and love for. So the fascinating part about this is, being almost in the same kind of peer group, is that drive that comes, and that has to go hand in hand with that. You seemingly brought it into management. It seemingly, obviously, is inherently you. Any idea where that comes from, to climb that particular mountain as a player? And then the toughest bit being, once you're up there, you've got to camp there, you've got to stay there. And you were there for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of obsessed with this thing as well because this idea of talent and hard work and ethic and these things, because I certainly knew as a young player, I'm talking about my school years really, I was not always the best in my year age group. Pretty much second or third sometimes. West Ham youth team as a youth player, similar. But I did have this incredible kind of desire to be better. And I think it's a mixture of some things that my parents put in me. My dad was a player, was very tough. My mum was the flip of that and was the real support system.
Tough as in what? As in, how do you think I did today, Dad? You could have done X, Y, and Z better.
I wouldn't have had a chance to ask that question.
Straight, yeah.
Like, told how you did today. Yeah, it was like that. It's very old school, but that's how my dad is and was. And some sort of tough. I had a very good upbringing. We were sort of more than probably middle class. My dad's football career, and I went to a private school, so I was very fortunate in lots of ways. Probably my dad's working class background himself, and that approach sort of gave me quite a good balance. So he pushed me hard, and my mum was like the buffer of, don't cry, son. It's fine. You'll be all right.
With the cuddles.
She absolutely was. So I was fortunate at that. But what it did was probably ingrain me with a real drive, and I think some of that's in me. And I don't even know what the basis of it is. I don't know why I had this real sort of professional drive, and if I see something and I want to do it, and if I can't do it, I want to do it. If I do it well, I want to do it better. I've always had that.
Yeah.
I've always had that, and I have taken it into management. It becomes a bit more taxing as you get older. It's a bit more tiring. When you've got loads of energy in your 20s, it's like I'm going to the moon. When you're in your 40s, you have days where you go, I need a day off.
No, it can wait.
Yeah, absolutely. The moon will be there. It's like, it's fine. I do that, but it's the drive that's still there in me. It just changes a bit, I guess.
Do you recognise that in your players now? And does it really make you kind of come alive when you see it?
Yeah, it does. I love seeing it in players. There's some players that naturally have it. I always felt it with Mason Mount, working with him as a young player. I could see the look in his eye. I feel it a bit with Jack Rudini here. That little bit of I want to train. Gaffer, how can I bet better? What can I do? And that was me. And I love that. It's very infectious to me. But I also understand as a coach that not everyone's the same. That doesn't mean that, that Jack should now be my pet. Come on, and Jack, it's great because you're like, everybody needs a version of something to get them to where they can, maximise themselves. And your job is to support that. So they're not all like me. Maybe they're quietly like me, but I don't see it. Can you get it out of them? Some players are the opposite a little bit. And it's like, what level can I get them to, which will help them? But I love that side of it. That's an interesting part of management and leadership, I guess.
And from the playing point of view, it was a career that almost got you to 40, still running around, still bossing things in midfield. The player that came through at West Ham, the famous meeting with the fans where you're getting written off and Harry Redknapp standing up for you. The next minute, the progression comes, Chelsea come knocking on the door, the numbers, the assists, the goals, the appearances, staggering in any kind of metrics that you want to chuck at a footballer. Does it still feel part of your history? Can you look at it objectively? Is it something that you can sincerely believe happened to you, given how hard you worked for it all?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's quite surreal when you look back over a long career. I don't know if this is just an age thing. You look back at periods of career, you forget things that you thought you'd never forget. I certainly don't forget it, but I'm probably more proud of it now than my playing career than I ever was in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I was always thinking about the next thing. So it is quite nice when you finish that day. You kick your last ball. It's like, I can never miss another penalty. I can never have a crap game. I can never do this. And I was like, that's good. Yeah. Like that might actually grow a little bit. That kind of what you were.
Yeah.
And I think it probably has. As social media will tell you no one day, like Gerrard scolds me, like those sort of conversations. But they become much more light-hearted. I can handle them much better. I know what I did and what I was, and that's not me trying to sound too up myself, but it was just my life. I just worked hard. I know I did do that generally. For all the nice things you're saying about me there, I know that my deficiencies and years I wasn't quite at it, or we didn't win a trophy that I thought we should have won. There's a lot in that period that wasn't all great. But it is nice when you finish, and I do reflect well on it now. And my children now, as they're growing, and my little ones even as well now. My daughters know, they're older, but they're just starting to pick up, people when I'm around the Chelsea area or football fans. And that's a nice feeling. It's not like an ego thing for me now. It's just nice. Like my daughter goes, Daddy, why is that person coming over to you? And, I think
because I'm a legend.
I go, well, let me see about this goal. So it was 211 when I scored. And I actually do that joke with her. And she already cuts her eyes at me. So I'm already there. But they're nice interactions because the career's done. And then now I'm in management, so this part of my life is like I'm back to that. Oh, you foul and you're useless.
Yeah.
You win a game and you're brilliant. You know, so I couldn't just pack up at 39 and think that was fine. I've found another way.
It's funny that embarrassing dad one where you could chuck out 100 caps for England, which would embarrass you. Do your friends' dads say, no, they don't, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That being and seeing it from the outside looking in, Jose Mourinho comes into town looking like a movie star, going after the traditional or recently traditional big guns in English football. From the outside looking in, it looked an absolute riot in the best possible way. Being in the eye of the storm, because it can't be up there every single day, can it? No. But your standards can be, which they quite clearly were. How tough was it to be in that and to pick up the gauntlet that you've thrown down? How much fun was it as well?
Yeah, it was a riot going back. It was loads of fun. And you don't always realise it in the moment, but now I certainly do. The thing with Jose was that, you know, he was brilliant. And in those first sort of 3 years at Chelsea, the impact he had on me was bigger than any impact I've had in my career. But it's always interesting what you think about managers from a long time ago, because you can forget, like, you know, the tactical approach to this game, but you always remember like the feeling that you had from them, which I think is more pure. Like, you know, it's like, and I look back at Jose and you say, and I think the whole group will say this, that I remember the first pre-season of just being like this sort of, wow, respect because of his demeanour and self-confidence, and also like a bit of fear because of how he was driving things. And it was like, and it was almost like, this is the way we're going. And that was it. And then from then on, I don't think he was obviously tactically really astute, but he just set this ball in motion, and then the rest was fun. You know, we had some losses. We lost finals, we lost semi-finals, etc. We won stuff, but week to week, we loved training. We loved each other in the dressing room. We were a good, strong dressing room. It was good fun. We challenged each other. We won a lot of games, and I felt confident we would. And then when you go through a long career, you realise that that's a real sweet spot. It doesn't happen like that all the time. And we had a long one at Chelsea in a way, but Jose's first years, he completely brought his personality into town and went, there you go. Yeah. You lot follow that. And we were in our mid-20s, a lot of us.
That's the strange thing, because you mentioned the word fear. You get that in a youth team. You get that as a younger player. You get that with the almost kind of schoolmasterly gap between coach and player. But that's a really intriguing one for someone in the mid-20s, because there's a certain element where you go, well, I think I've cracked a fair bit of this. And then he comes in and suddenly it's glorious Technicolor.
Yeah, it's really smart from him, I think, because I think it's naturally his personality. But it wasn't just me. I know that, you know, John was the captain. We would talk about it, and we both had it. It was almost like an unspoken fit. And he was smart though, because he certainly gravitated towards the middle of the dressing room when, well, who are my boys here? Who are the strength in the group? Fortunately, I was one of those, and from my way, and John was different, and Didier was different. And once he had that part of the group, it kind of permeated through the group, so he could get his message through really easily. I think a bit of fear is a good thing. You know, in the modern day, we're not supposed to talk like that so much, but I think a little bit of respect and a little bit, I can't get this wrong. I have to work hard. I have to do that, or there'll be consequences. In the right package is important in top level elite sport, because it's a reality. Because if you're not doing it, someone down the road will be. Yeah. And so we had that.
It's a key thing that you've just said there, and I could tell by the way you wanted to say it in exactly the right words, because you're absolutely right about the language that's used around football motivation, fear being perhaps latterly a word that people are going, not sure about that, but that underbedded, because it's whether it's a fear of the manager's reaction, a fear of you not getting to the levels that you want to get to or you feel you should be getting to. A healthy fear of that particular situation did exactly what it needed to do at Chelsea, didn't it?
Yeah, and it certainly did. And I think, you know, we talk about authenticity as a manager, and I think you can have a bit of fear, and as long as you can team it up with some honesty and a lighter side, I think it works. Yeah. Because I think Jose was funny too, and so if you're fearing him every day, it's draining.
That's everywhere, and just
it's like, oh, I want to see him in the corridor in case he talks about the free kick the other day or something. It would be draining. So I think the best managers, and I view managers now from the outside, you know, wonder what Pep's like and Jurgen when he was there and stuff. And it's really hard to get it, but I presume that they had this thing where, but they need to be tough. You'll know it. If a lax performance or something sloppy in training will get you out of the team, that's fine. That needs to be there. But also an arm around the shoulder, and this is going to get you back in the team. Laugh. I think those things are priceless and as important as anything in the job, I'd say.
But we've not created the EFL Unfiltered purely as an ego vehicle for me. But I did look up Saturday, the 28th of August, 2004, Chelsea against Southampton. We scored after 1 minute, James Beattie. He then scored an own goal, and then you won the game with a penalty. And my name just said Prrutton and a yellow card next to it, which
Was against
in a microcosm, that is my career in a nutshell. And it shows the sliding doors nature of footballers of different levels, Frank. Your team had the likes of John Terry, Wayne Bridge, Claude Makelele, Carvalho, Drogba in. We had some very good players, James Beattie, Kevin Phillips, Graham Lasso. There was me propping up the other end of that particular spectrum.
September 2004.
Yes.
So was it quite early in the season? Yeah. So
Yes.
I think we had not conceded before that. As I remember, I think we started that season really well, and then
So we scored after a minute, which
really scored really early, which showed us we hadn't conceded for about 8 games.
that sense of what that team was, and it's part deprecation and flattery to yourself. I just remember coming up against a team where you went, bloody hell, because it was big blokes, big, very talented, skillful blokes, captain charisma on the sidelines, and it just being that kind of assault on the senses, which was phenomenal, really. And that great team, the Arsenal great team, the Manchester United great team of almost kind of, we've beaten these in the tunnel. I'm only speaking for myself here. Graham Lasso might say something completely different. But did you feel that coming up against the opposition?
Yeah, I think so. It was a sweet spot. And like the people you talk about, I remember my version of that was being a young player at West Ham, and then probably my first year at Chelsea going to Arsenal. And they had this, so it wasn't the Invincibles and that sort of, even that pre-team of Vieira, Petit, Pires, just they were like, I don't know where I'm going to go with this. Do you know what I mean? And I absolutely remember going to Highbury in the early days, and it was just like, okay, how many are we going to get done by? What, is 1 or 2-0? I never say it out loud, but it was a reality. And we managed to get there. And you don't, when you're there, you never really go, oh yeah, we're there now, because I think that would be the beginning of the end. But I do remember like pre-match meals, sort of 12 or 3 o'clock kickoff, and then the hour and a half killing time. I remember we were a bit like, here we go, and that sounds sort of a little bit egotistical, but it was almost like, not because, oh, I'm going to do this. It was like, he'll do it if I don't do it. And then he'll protect my back if I don't. And we were very complete. So that was a sweet spot of a couple of years where I can imagine teams felt like that.
Yeah,
they played.
It means a lot that you felt like that at one stage as well. A very tiny bit. That knack of scoring goals, I mean, the statement in itself suggests that it just comes like that. But given the hard worker that you are, could you attribute a portion of what would have been hard work, what was natural? Because as a goal-scoring midfielder, we know they're like the proverbial availability, but it's the record is just absolutely staggering.
Yeah, I mean, I probably had a history of scoring goals as a kid from midfield, but I wouldn't say I was absolutely prolific, but like a fair few. So there was definitely some sort of raw talent. But I think there's 2 things. To say what the raw talent is, on top of that, it was absolutely hard work, because I used to practice every type of shot, every situation, again and again and again. Some of it was my obsessive, behaviour of, if I missed one, I'd practice it 50 times. If I thought of something on the way home in the car, I'd do it the next day a lot of times. And I can't say that enough, because that was key. And as I speak to the players now, it's like, you have to do that and practice and practice. But now I coach, I know that sometimes you can make someone practice 1,000 times. Doesn't mean they'll score. So there's something.
As you get
I'm not naming names there. So I think, if I'm being, I had some talent, but what I did actually think I did get better as I got older and through my career was the intelligence of when to time the run, because that was a big deal for me. And again, that comes down to like a hunger. I wanted it badly, so I viewed, positioning where I should be. Sometimes it's a ratio, it's a numbers game. How many times can I arrive in there when he doesn't want to run with me? My opponent. When he crosses and comes inside, what's that next move, and timing your runs. And so those things of game intelligence, I think when you see, I watch it now, and great goal scoring midfielders, and I think Gundogan, I was a couple of years ago when he was scoring regularly for Man City. He was one of the midfield. I don't see that many that remind me of myself. Jude Bellingham's come through it with different players, but when he's around the box, I see moments where they just understand the timing of a diagonal run or in a box, or when to arrive. And I think that is the thing that's probably more rare, that understanding.
So Frank, given the nature of what your career was built on as an all-action midfielder, doing a generation ago what each and every midfielder was expected, running around, heading, tackling, organisational, scoring goals. The fact that we're now breaking it down into specific numbers, I understand it from a coaching point of view. It's a very easy way to deal with what you want a player to do. Do you think there's a certain arm of a certain type of player that is getting away with something now in midfield, given them being so position specific?
Yeah, I do, because we're now pigeonholing players as I'm a 6 or I'm an 8, or I'm a 10. Players will say to you, I'm more of I'm a 10, and you look at it and go, but are you understanding that you've got more to offer than that, or you can offer the team more? There's more strength, or do you think you're 10? Because I don't think you're a 10. I think you're a 6. I think midfield's a good position to speak about that, because the game has now evolved much more where we talk about a positional game.
Mm-hmm.
I fear for that a bit. I think we'll evolve back more to where we have a bit more fluidity to it, and particularly in midfield, players that can do a bit of everything. I think we need to re-coach that of not so much position and tick and tack, and certain coaches can work like that. I like having a bit more versatility in my players, particularly in midfield players. So if they do see themselves as something, I'll say, well, why do you see, and what can you give the team? And if I think that you can be better in that position. So it's absolutely a worthy question when you come into a club like Coventry mid-season. And you got this view of someone, and you go, well, and then all of a sudden, if you don't ask them for 3 weeks, then you ask, no, actually, I think I'm a 6. You've been playing me as an 8. So you have to get to the bones of it, and then you can open the conversation and go, well, why? And you've got more. We've got really, and this isn't relating to Victor Talk now, who's playing really well for us, but I wouldn't be sure what it was. And as we started working with him, he said I'm either 10 or an 8, and he's played in the double 6 for us recently. I'm calling these positions now that we're sort of trying to get away from, and he's doing it brilliantly.
Yeah.
And it's great for me to say. It doesn't mean he's not a 10 or an 8, but I said, you can do that. You can play deeper, and you can offer us so much. Your technical qualities in that deeper position, and then your physicality and what you can do, and all the other things. So I think it's important that we don't get stuck in those positional conversation.
And that ability in midfield, as I said about that knack of scoring goals, what comes with the success at Chelsea gets you in the England team for the best part of 15 years. It's a staggering, again, amount of time to be at the very top of the tree. I suppose as well, does that take you from being a well-known Premier League football to a globally well-known person?
Yeah, I think in my era, it was a big part of that.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say that, because when I sort of travel on holiday even now, people go, oh, the goal that didn't cross the line for England. Like, you have those moments in World Cups where everyone's watching and it's your country. So it's
What's your reaction to that? Does it depend on what mood you're in?
Yeah, it depends on what mood I'm in. I've heard it too many times. That it's the goal that I never scored that is the important one.
I just scratched that question off.
So, but I suppose now with reflection, the goal's long gone. It's quite good that, some German bloke round the pool sings at you when you're on the other side of the world. It's like, I maybe I did all right in my life. But and then the other thing of that is the explosion of the Premier League and Chelsea. I went to Chelsea in our first pre-season. There'll be 50 people there at the hotel, and then later on thousands. Except those things that I was lucky to be part of everything exploded around. So, but the England career is a real proud moment I certainly grew up as an English boy, wanting to represent my country once. Yeah. And to be able to do that many times is a huge, huge honour.
So is that the proudest moment of your career, do you think? Do you have a single one? Is it a collective?
I would say my last game for England, my 100th cap for England, and I had the cap at home, was a real moment I was treasures in England. We never won anything. We won't go into that. That's make it a really long podcast that you don't want. But as you get older again, and as you finish, you actually reflect and go, I'm really proud of that. Play for my country that many times. So that's the amazing thing. But some of the achievements I could manage to do at Chelsea with the team, winning the Champions League final, winning our first Premier League, that one sticks in my mind with much more clarity because of what it meant. Those things for your day-to-day club. I'm very proud Englishman, but when a club becomes you, like Chelsea did, all of us, it's very special.
Given the family ties that you've got, I bet you're not short of advice either as a player and now as a manager. Do you have many people on the phone?
Yeah.
Eric, potentially Jeremy?
I have Jamie, we speak to a lot. Harry's great. Harry's such an amazing influence, or such an amazing energy. There's an era of managers for Alex Ferguson and Harry and many more. I've dropped Sir Alex Ferguson's name in there because he's been a great little mentor for me. And from afar, he does it with a lot of managers. He's like the godfather.
He would come to you and
so he's very connected in with the LMA.
Yeah.
When I was at Everton, he lived close by to where I was living, so I managed to have a coffee with him one morning there, which was just fascinating stuff. So and I know he's like that with a lot, so that's just an added thing to what a man is. But then Harry is great for me personally because of the family that he brings. When I'm on the M40 on the way back after winning a game at Coventry, and he's like, Frankie, I was at the races, but I was watching, I was checking in, and you went 1-0 down, and I was worried, and I said to Sandra, and then he went 1-0, and then it was 2-1, and and you put the phone down, and it's brilliant, and I'm like, what a man, he's my uncle and stuff, but he's so invested in listening to all these things and supportive, and what do you think? What about your formation and that? And it's great because you can only respect his viewpoint. Opinions as a manager are funny things because I'll take Harry Redknapp, so I won't take my random mate at home. It's like never kicked a ball. Who goes, can't believe you played a back four or something. It'd be like, shut up, So as a manager, yeah, you've got enough on your plate to sometimes. I've got a few of my mates that like we're armchair kind of managers, and you go like,
lots of those nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's what it is.
I love the fact I asked about Harry and Jamie. I didn't mention Auntie Sandra. The fact is,
Has he played a back three again, Harry?
yes,
Maybe Sandra.
I told him about wing backs.
Sandra's just getting the house all set for Harry and getting all these sausage rolls ready or whatever. Jam roly poly.
I could just see him doing that. It's amazing to think of that all-encompassing story with it. I asked you what your proudest moment. Is there a hardest moment that you could cast your mind back to, something that really sits deep with you during the course of your either playing career or management so far?
Yeah. Well, playing career, I guess, losing major finals, obviously. Losing the Champions League final for Chelsea was sort of devastating at the time. I shouldn't really call it devastating now because over the course of a career it sits in its place. Going home from World Cups are really hard hitting because of the absolute attention to it. And
do you know what's coming when that happens?
Yeah. You know what's coming.
You're on the plane thinking,
absolutely.
We're getting it.
You know it when you walk through the media zone afterwards.
Really? Yeah.
So, and that was harsh, and it was overly harsh, and now it's changed. The lads are better with the written media; they get it worse on social media. So, but that comes with the territory. Not all things can be rosy, but sometimes it goes beyond the pale. But those things I think I've become a lot thicker skinned with them. Losing your job as a manager, it's tough for your pride more than anything. But once you've lost it once, losing it the second time, not as bad. I don't want to keep getting sacked. But it is just a reality. If you're going to manage, unless you're really unique in this game, Pep Guardiola, for instance, the rest of us working in different jobs that are challenging, it's a inevitability, maybe. It's strong possibility, yeah. You've got to come to terms with that. So you become tougher to that. So yeah, I've had lots of hard moments in my career. Probably more hard ones than good ones in a weird way, because I've lost more Premier Leagues than I won. I've lost more Champions Leagues than I won. All those things. So, but I've got pretty decent perspective on that now. It's part of your career.
And I suppose as well, you mentioned Sir Alex and you mentioned Pep there as well. That longevity, that going to the well again and again and again. Are they your motivational figures? Are they your inspirations for doing this? And can you see yourself in 20, 25 years still doing the same?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a motivation for it because of how they've done it. Can I see myself there? Not necessarily. Having had the playing career I had, pretty much going straight into this, it's good when you look at what they've done, because what it does is makes you slow down. Like when you start managing, you want to win everything now. I wanted to get to Premier League with Derby right then. I wanted to get to the Champions League with Chelsea, and then when we got to the Champions League, I wanted to win it the next year. And then unfortunately, things get taken away from you, and then you actually realise, okay, no, you can't do it, or you can work with what you got, do the best, and that relative success you have anywhere, you can be happy with or reflect on. So whether I'll go forever with it, no. That you definitely know when you do this job that it's so consuming that I do think about those times when we're either in between jobs or maybe a time when you won't do the job anymore. It's not coming soon. I hope, from my part, hopefully not coming soon.
You mentioned you've got a mate that likes to tell you about how to set your team up.
Got loads of them.
Get to it. Do you have anyone that you consider a best mate in football that you've? I mean, there's a couple that spring to mind, quite obviously, given the fact of how long you spent in the proverbial trenches with them.
Yeah, I guess so. But the good ones, if you're talking about, John Terry, the players I play with, Ashley Cole, who I also worked with at Everton, Petr Cech, we were very close, Didier. We've sort of got a WhatsApp group. It's gone a bit dormant, but it's still there, and we know we can call upon each other. If I'm honest, the best ones don't ask you the silly questions. Do you know what I mean? They don't ask why you play the back three. They don't. They know the game. They know the rules, and they let you get on with your job, and they support from far away. So
Yeah.
they're the classy ones. My mates down the pub are the less classy version of that.
Are they allowed in your establishment down in Chelsea, the less classy one?
No, their faces are on the door. For real, they're nowhere near it.
Lovely boozer, by the way, but it.
Have you?
I am. Very nice, very nice. That's obviously that's slightly away from football. I suppose that's somewhere to chill out, isn't it? It's something you can take a great delight in. You seem, as driven as you are, Frank, that sense of perspective outside of football and that compartmentalisation side of it, of you're not just a manager, an ex-player, an ex-Chelsea and England legend. It's a father, a husband, it's a son, it's all those types of things as well. When you look at that success, is there an element of, is there something you can lay your hat on, or something that you've got, which is a kind of money can't buy happiness type of situation?
Well, certainly wife and my children, because my two older girls now are in uni, one's going to their A-levels, so they're just about to fly the nest. I think they have flown the nest, if I'm honest. They are very mature now and with different views on life and all those things. So I've got that going on. But with Christine, with our two younger children, it's like doing that in your 40s, or just 40 when I had Patricia. Freddie's now 3.5. It's like going through it the second time round. You're more mature, you're understanding more of it. Those times are even more patient, more pressure. Those moments are sort of, you can sort of take them in. Yeah. In your 20s, things, go over your head a lot. You're in a rush. And in your 40s, we did that. So I'm very aware of that. And I'm very fortunate and feel happy now. I'm working at Coventry. It gives me quite a good life balance. I can get home certain days. They can come to me certain days. And I think I would struggle without that. Yeah. Wherever I'd want to work or coach and manage, I know I would struggle being away from family. So that certainly is a really good balance for me. And I think any good manager either needs a really good tight-knit family around them that understand it, or nothing. Because
completely on the run.
Yeah, it's one of those jobs, you either go and you're in, and I think, but no, I am luckily a family man, and it's a really strong unit for me, because sometimes you come home and your day reflects in your face. I wear it on my face a fair bit, I get told that. So
in an affectionate way.
In a really affectionate way, of course. So I've learned to manage those things a little bit, and that's definitely where my life balance in that sense is as good as it could be at this moment.
It's a wonderful setup here. Again, not to just chuck myself into it. I was on loan here 10 years ago when it didn't look like this. There's been a distinct difference in the last decade, and the home games were being played at Northampton. So that's a different, again, a podcast entirely. But what it is, and watching you out on the training pitch earlier on, I mean, you are there, you're right in the middle of it, hands-on, giving the orders, telling people what to do, enjoying. And you can really tell that you're really, really enjoying it. So therein, it sounds like it's successful already, but broadly, as a team in the Championship, a team that's knocked on the door in the biggest game in the Championship, in the playoffs, but not quite gone through it. What does success look like here for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly do love being in it. I've always wanted to be that manager, coach. So my team, I brought in with me Joe Edwards and Chris Jones, and the staff that are already here, they understand it straight away. We coach, we're in it. I've always wanted to be that manager the players look at and go, yeah, he's in it, directing it or whatever. So that I enjoy. It's great to be doing that again. As a club, I've found the players here really, really responsive, really good group. Every meeting we do, everything we try on the training ground is like absolutely, trying to do what we're saying and buying in. That's a pleasure. In terms of the big picture, I think the team that made the playoff final 2 years ago is drastically changed. Yeah. There's been a big transition, and obviously got to the FA Cup semi-final last year, and again changed a little bit again. So I think I don't get too caught up in it. I understand it, but I think we just have to take everything as it is now, where we're at now, where I came in at, where we've managed to move it as we speak now. We've moved, in a forward direction. I think we've got more steps to go, and we want to try and push towards the playoffs now, because it's now a little bit of a distance that we think maybe. Yeah. And that's a good thing, as long as it's not let's relax, because now we look like we might get there, because football would do that too. We all know it.
Best in the Championship, you can have a Championship, a stellar week or a terrible week.
I feel like I've got a good squad to work with. We want to improve it. Without work, can we recruit to improve it? Because it's an ambitious club, an ambitious owner. I love that. I'm very ambitious. I want to coach. I want to make this team as good as it can be. So I want to give this team one of those moments. So lots of hard work to do.
Can you put your finger on what the best part of the job is for you?
Well, there's no doubt when that final whistle goes and your 8 minutes of injury time has been added on and you're 2-1 up.
That's the average now, isn't it?
It's just amazing. It's amazing, that one. But when you get a close victory and that sort of scenario, what it means to the fans, what it means to the players and us and me, and go home happy and everybody's happy, is a brilliant feeling.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it is the drug that what you do it for. There's no doubt. And alongside that, day to day, working with people, trying to make them better, having a good day's training where you come off, and they're not all like that, where you come off and go, yeah, we planned that, we worked it, there was a reason for it, it felt like it works, he's doing better, he's improving. Those little moments are brilliant. I love doing it for that.
And that love, it seems like that will never ever go, will it?
No, it won't. Whether there'll be a time ever where you just prioritise different things because of family, I'm certainly not near that now. I'm 46. And when you're an ex-player and you go out of a job and then you're not in a job, everyone goes, "You're going to try something else." I'm like, no, this is what I do. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, me. Cool. Just get on the sofa and talk about football. Now I've got complete respect for what you do, and I've done it. But this is what kind of does turn me on, the challenge of this job, and yeah, I want to do my best at it, and I certainly won't lose any of that love in the future.
Frank, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure you can tell by the questions that I've asked you as well, inserting myself into that as some kind of Forrest Gump figure that's hovered around at the back of your career. But having watched it from afar, and I managed to do a lot of this, and it's an absolute pleasure. And I told my son on the way here, he said, "What are you doing today?" I said, "I'm going to go." He's only 13. He's just started his own little footballing journey. He said, "I'll have to go and talk to Frank Lampard." What? It's the first time he's gone, what?
Yeah, right.
So before you go, I need your autograph as well.
Absolutely.
But it just goes to show how transcendent that is. And yeah, from a peerage point of view, it was just an absolute pleasure watching you play football, because you did things that a lot of us aspire to absolutely not.
I remember you trying to stop me doing things. I remember.
Always a stopper, not
I remember you. Yeah.
But no, it's been
Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.